Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great, as I always say, staying happy and healthy and all that good stuff. I hope everybody had a good Christmas, and it's pretty much still the holidays, but I got some more encounters for you with, things that you just don't quite know what they are. So, if that sounds like something that you like, definitely pull up a stump with me, and let's jump into it. Thank you for watching. So one of my buddies was in Afghanistan in 2011 as part of the US Army. They were on a patrol in the mountains, a few miles from the FOB. It was late, they were behind schedule, then they were speeding to try and get back, at least somewhat on time. They take a shortcut that's on the map. It has some back roads that look like they haven't been used in years. Around the corner, they see a soldier in old BDUs that look beat to shit. He's holding a rusty flashlight, standing in the middle of the road. Keep in mind that BDUs have been phased out for years now. He holds up his hand, motioning for us to stop. We do. As we get closer, we see that he's just a specialist. Everyone looks at each other. He walks over to our driver's door and says that we should slow down and that there has been accidents on this road. We say, okay, sure, and he motions with the light for us to leave. Up the road, several hundred feet around a sharp turn, the guardrail is broken open. We stop and get out and look over the side. Down a steep cliff, about 100 feet down, is a Humvee that's obviously been there for a long time. We absolutely nope out of there. We speed all the way back to the base. We all believe that some poor soldier is still protecting the lives of people even after he's dead. So this didn't happen to me, but it happened to a few truck drivers that I worked with last spring. I was working at a lumber company, and I was helping two truck drivers unload their trailer. I got to talking about the weird hours they work because they would take lumber to construction sites from their dispatch location in VA, and occasionally they would do runs for the smaller company that I worked for. They would also go to construction areas and load up excess lumber and supplies if they were not needed, and then bring them back to their dispatch and give the buyer a refund on the unused material, so they got home when their runs were completed. Anyways, they were telling me one of them was a huge ex-Marine guy and the other one was a really big biker guy, and they said that they didn't get home until 2 a.m. the previous Friday. Naturally, I had to ask why. This is what they told me. They had a material pickup in Paw Paw West Virginia at 9 p.m. So they figured that they would just do it to get it over with, get the material, get home, because they were going to be late anyways. Paw Paw West Virginia is pretty secluded. It's a mountain town. The main road leading into town is dirt and gravel. You couldn't do any more than 35 in a big rig on that road. After they entered the town, they noticed that everyone in the town was standing on their lawns or driveways, just staring at the semi, roughly around 10 p.m. Men, women, and children. They get to the construction site. There's nobody there. They load up the excess materials in the truck and then leave. It's almost 11 p.m. by this time. They stop by this little general store for some food and sodas. So they get their stuff and they're about to get in the truck when they see the sheriff's car parked on the opposite side of the parking lot. The sheriff's in the car, taking swigs out of a fifth of Jack. The sheriff sees the truckers. He gets out and approaches them with a whiskey bottle still in hand. He asks them what they're doing this time of night in town. The truckers tell him that they were doing a pickup at a construction site in the town. He tells them to take another road out of town. The truckers tell him that the main road is the biggest, and all the other roads are not suitable for their rig, so says their GPS. The sheriff tells them that they better not. He says lots of people kinda disappear on that road late at night, and they'd be best to find another way out of town. The truckers tell the sheriff they will, and they get in the truck and they pull out of the parking lot. They see the sheriff staring at them as they leave and swigging more whiskey. They think that the sheriff's just a drunk trying to scare them because they're out-of-towners, and he has nothing better to do on a Friday night. They take the main road anyways, since it's the widest and it's the shortest route back. As they leave town, they see the townspeople are still staring at them, even at 12 a.m. Halfway down the main road, it's just trees and empty fields on all sides. There's no houses or buildings at all. They see this large, hairy figure standing a dozen yards or so up ahead on the side of the road. They both think, what the hell is that? They slow down to get a better look. The creature is about 8 feet tall, hairy, and has a snout. It's staring at them, and it has this grin on its face. Its eyes are deep and black. They nope out. They floor the big rig, and they accidentally mowed down a small tree with the front bumper while looking in the rearview mirror and side mirrors. The creature walks into the road and stands there watching them drive away. They told their supervisor first thing Monday morning and reported the damage to the bumper. The supervisor tells them that other drivers have also reported odd things in nearby areas late at night, and he doesn't really care about the bumper, but he also doesn't go into detail about the other incidents. The truckers tell him that that's their last run they make to Paw Paw, or they're done. He agrees that it was their first and last run to Paw Paw. I always love getting to tell this one. This happened when I was 27. I was your typical 27-year-old ginger neckbeard. I was born and raised in Appalachia, West Virginia. I'm a mountaineer by trade, not for fun. I work with survey teams for local mining concerns. I just signed with a new outfit. I'm looking for new coal deposits. My friend transfers with me. We'll call him Phil for the sake of this. Phil works with the survey equipment. I just guide the team. The company that we're working for is based in California, and they have no clue how things work out east. Most of the crew are bussed in from San Francisco, and they have never been east of St. Louis. We decided to just kinda, scare them a little bit. We have an urban legend, pretty much completely spread by the local blacklungers. We call him the Coal Man, which is the urban version, or the minor version is the Howler. It's said to walk the hillsides, trying to kill work crews in its territory. The guys all blow it off, except for Phil. Since he grew up here, he knew the background of it better. I stared out. The particular mountain we're climbing has a winding ridge that we're supposed to ride to the dig site. It's getting dark out, and the bears usually come out to hunt game in the evening, so we end up setting up camp. We start telling our stories, mostly about our girlfriends or who we're fancying, while eating our bean rations. We were saving the actual good food for the trip back. The cars don't fit on the ridge, so we have to backpack our equipment. And the sun goes down completely, so it's totally night out. Most of the new guys get into their tents, but Phil and I stay out to stargaze because we don't mind the cold. And we hear the distant howling. Phil looks at me, and I say, oh, it's probably just some wolves. But 5 minutes pass, and we're getting ready for bed, and then the loudest howl I have ever heard comes echoing out of the night, and I know that this is not a wolf. It didn't sound like one. The howler is said to be like a rake in appearance, but it hates getting close to its targets. We realize that it's just trying to disturb the sediment with shrieking. We get all the California guys up, and we just kind of leave for the nearest overhang, and we leave most of the bags and tents. There actually ends up being a minor avalanche, but since we got everybody out of there, nobody got hurt. We watched the opposite hill where the screaming was coming from, or at least what it sounded like, and the thing doesn't come back, and there's no radio check-in. The DNR gets a helicopter to us, because the company is too cheap to pay for these things. The helicopter stops briefly over the dig site. There's a big camera flash. When we get back to the valley, which is the town, the company tells us that they found a total shit ton of coal at the side of the peak where we heard the noise coming from. I have to wonder, I think that thing was guarding the coal, but obviously I kept that to myself. Most of the guys did. They knew that the people in suits wouldn't care. We all still joke about it. Most guys like the legend. Never seeing it, of course. I'm still a mountaineer, but I try to avoid coal jobs. I finished my contract and I work for a firm that searches for iron now. Thank God we made it out of there. So as far as I know, the only other people that know this story are my family members. Me and my family were camping in the Sierra Nevada mountains in 2005. We were up there for 4 days and 3 nights. On the second day, me and some cousins take my dad's truck and drive around. We get kind of lost, to be honest, but we don't really care, and we come across this trail. We drive on the trail, and we realize that the trail seems completely forgotten. There's bushes growing on the sides of the trail that make it kind of hard to drive without getting scratched. But we follow it until it comes to a dead end out of nowhere. Then we see a creek bed, and we get out and decide to follow that as well. We know for sure now that we're definitely in the middle of nowhere. So we decide to relax and have a couple of beers, and keep following this creek bed to see where it leads. So this thing seems to go on forever, but eventually it does lead to a sort of bank, and we, again, go over the bank to see what's beyond. It's now starting to get dark out. We go on a bit farther and realize that, oh shit, we're definitely lost now. We hear a noise in the distance, and we decide to go and see if it's fellow campers. And in the dark, we lost the sound, but we hear it again, and we try to follow it the best we can. We can smell burning wood in the air. We feel relieved that we might come across a camp. 2 of my cousins tell me to stop because they saw something. I say, well, what did you see? They said they saw hooded figures. They tell me to just hang back a little bit. We slowly continue, trying to be a little quieter, and we come across this so-called campsite that looked like a very cramped, almost village. There were little huts and cabins that were throughout the place. I call out. I say, excuse me, trying to get someone's attention. I finally see about 4 hooded figures. One says, don't come any further, and approaches me. He says I'm a long way away from where I belong. I ask for directions back to the creek we were following. He says that he can't help me on that, but he can assist in something else. When he said that, I got some serious bad vibes. I say, no, that's okay, I just want to leave. And then I look around, and I can't see my cousins. And I'm like, where did they go? The figure says they ran off and left you. I'm starting to panic. I yell out, stay away from me. The figure says, that isn't going to happen. I'm quickly looking around the site, and I notice a strange thing from what I can tell in the limited light. I see a tarp with someone in it. Is that person dead? I'm seriously freaked out, and I think that I'm going to be next. Tears start to stream down my face. I see a bench with a bunch of knives and other stuff on it. My senses finally come back to me, and I run for my life. I have no idea what direction or where I'm running to, but I finally hear and follow the creek. Eventually, I get back to the truck. I see my cousins there, and I scream at them for leaving me back there. They say that they're sorry. They were just overcome with fear after they saw something. I was like, well, what did you see? They said they noticed a tent not too far from where they were, that there was a body cut up in there. I say we should just get the effing hell out of here, and we do. It takes a long time, but we eventually find our way back. We get back to the campsite at some point in the night. My family members are still up and are worried sick about us. We tell them everything we saw and heard, but they don't believe us. And I'm like, how can you not believe us? We were gone all that time. And then my aunt says, we saw some people who looked exactly like you guys. You said you were going to be at a camp nearby, and you were going to be out for a little bit longer. And I still have no idea what we came across, or what my family saw, or anything. Now let me start by saying that having spent my entire life in New Mexico, a lot of people I know claim to have seen a skinwalker. They are kind of our regional boogeyman, but ask a Navajo about them and he will either absolutely ignore the question and all following, or they will kind of laugh it off, saying something to the effect of, well, white people don't usually believe in them, they believe they're myths. So, here's my story. My father owns a small delivery service that operates out of Farmington, New Mexico. We mostly deliver small packages out to the middle of nowhere that are too much of a hassle for the larger delivery companies to even bother with. My dad is the only employee, and we have a few pickup trucks and a trailer. One day, we get a delivery out to Window Rock, Arizona, on the Navajo reservation, about 2 hours from Farmington. My dad gets the call for the job while he is chilling with his Navajo friend, Travis, and his girlfriend. Travis mentions how he's got family in Window Rock that he hasn't seen in ages, and he asked if they could go with him. I was just a kid at the time, but it was the summertime, so Dad decides that we'll all go down together. He can do his delivery really quick. Then, while Travis sees his family, we can go check out Window Rock. It's a big rock face with a large hole in it that goes to the other side. It's pretty cool. So we had to convoy in separate trucks since my dad's was loaded down with freight. We decided to bring along some walkie-talkies so we could communicate with one another. We spend our time in Window Rock. Everything is generally uneventful, and we start heading home along the old highway with my dad and I in front, and Travis and his girlfriend in their truck behind us. I honestly don't remember most of the Window Rock trip, but this next part I will never ever forget. We're somewhere on the highway between Window Rock and Gallup, New Mexico. It had rained earlier in the day, and the road was kind of slick, so we were taking it pretty slow. On the left of the highway, there's nothing but sandstone cliffs, and on the right there's this huge field separated from the road by a small barbed wire fence. We crest the top of this hill, and down at the bottom of the hill we see what appears to be a very large dog sitting back on its haunches in the middle of the road, facing the cliffs. My dad calls over the radio, "Hey, Trav, do you see that big-ass dog-looking thing?" Travis starts yelling back over the radio, "That's not a dog. Speed up right now and hit it." He almost sounds hysterical. He just keeps screaming, "Hit it, Jay. You have to hit it. Please, hit that effing thing right now." So my dad starts to speed up as we get a bit closer. I begin to see it a little more clearly. It's covered in this brown, wiry, matted hair that appears to have dried blood all over it. It's still facing the cliffs, but the moment our headlights hit it, it turns to look at us, and it has a face. I don't know how else to describe it, other than that it was a mix between a bear's and a human's face. It's twisted and distorted, almost in pain. As we got closer to this thing, we started to realize that it's actually huge. Though it was just sitting on its haunches, it's about shoulder height to the hood of the truck. We get literally inches from hitting it when it lets out this scream that sounds like someone screaming as their lungs were filling with water, and it leaps backwards toward the field, landing just on our side of the barbed wire fence. Then, with another leap, it was gone from sight. Travis comes over the radio again. Holy shit, keep driving, we have to get out of here, we have to go faster. He kept repeating that last part. We have to get out of here, we have to go faster. Pretty soon, we were speeding like crazy, and just as we start to come near the outskirts of Gallup, we get pulled over. Travis pulls his truck over with us. Naturally, this makes the cop, a Navajo man himself, very on edge, and he immediately asks why Travis felt the need to pull over as well when it was us who was getting pulled over. Travis says, "We just saw a skinwalker a few miles back, and it's been following us." The officer immediately turns white, stammers something about a verbal warning, gets in his car and takes off. We do the same. We didn't see anything else that night, but when we got home, Travis refused to let us leave without taking some kind of Navajo totem thing that was supposed to keep it away. So back in my freshman year of college, one of my best friends in the entire dorm was a Native American guy. We always hang out, drink, and play video games, and we always complain about the low quality of fishing near the university. Over the summer break, he invites me to spend a week with him and his family on their reservation. I had heard bad stories about people getting robbed, beaten, and worse on the reservation, but he assured me that it stopped over a decade ago and that things were much better now than when he was growing up. So I agree, and we head up there for a week spent fishing and hunting in the woods. His family were super nice to me, except for his older brother, who didn't like the fact that there was a white person on their reservation. I never let it bother me, until one night we were drinking, and he kept talking about that there was something in the woods to keep my kind away, and that I should watch myself out there. My buddy tells him to STFU, tells me that he's just telling me old stories, and I decide to just let the whole situation go. The next night, we decide to try and do some night fishing for walleye. His dad and his uncle have the motorboat, so we strap on some lights on the rowboat and row our asses around the lake. After a couple hours and a few fish, we take a break on the shore to stretch and to go to the bathroom. Near my buddy's house, on shore, we start hearing noises in the woods. At first, we just think it's some animals, until it starts sounding like a person screaming, and not like a fox. We know what a fox can sound like. We figure it's my buddy's brother, so we start throwing sticks and rocks at the noise, telling it to shut up and stuff, but it gets louder and louder. We can hear it bolting through the woods from about 100 yards in. We get a little freaked out, and we shove the boat off into the water. Something loudly splashes in the water. We see what looks vaguely like a person, but the wailing no longer sounds even close to anything human. We row our asses off back to the dock and run into the house. We see a light on in the shed. Inside the shed, my buddy's dad, uncle, and his older brother are cleaning the fish that they caught. My buddy gets up in his older brother's face and starts yelling at him for being such an asshole. His dad and uncle ask, well, what happened? And we tell them what we heard. His brother was in with them and in the boat the entire night. His dad and his uncle walk outside the shed and start talking in hushed voices. My buddy and I start helping his brother clean the rest of the fish, and his brother apologizes to me for giving me so much shit. The rest of the visit, everyone keeps an eye on me and keeps me from going outside by myself. But later in the night, after everyone was asleep, I repeatedly heard wailing and noises outside the house and banging while sleeping. I still talk to my buddy all the time, but in 7 years since then, despite his constant reassurance that his family really enjoyed having him visit, they don't invite me back, and I can't blame them. So I'm very late to the party on cryptids and stuff, and what I experienced turns out is a pretty generic experience, but this is my bipedal cryptid sighting. I was 12 years old, maybe almost a teenager. I was visiting my uncle's family at their lake house. Me, my older brother, and our 2 cousins, and their dad. We were on a golf cart ride, and their dad is telling us about how he found some weird deer remains, and we ask him to see it, and he says, okay, there's no harm in that. So he takes us into the woods on the golf cart. Me and the girl cousin are sitting in the back of the golf cart, my brother and the other cousin in the front. It's a fun trip, but the woods are really creepy. We come upon the deer remains. There's bones everywhere. Most of them have been picked clean. This thing was really torn apart. I've never seen a corpse like it before or after, but, you know, being a kid, we're like, oh, this is cool. So we drive away in the golf cart, and as we're driving away, remember, I'm on the back, we see a figure come out of the woods a while after us. For context here, we are on a very long, flat strip of road, almost like a landing strip if you can picture it. I ask the girl if she sees. She just nods her head. It looks like a large man, covered in hair, and it's running after us. We tell her dad, but he doesn't look, he just laughs it off as kids playing around. It keeps following us, running, for maybe a while. It stops once we reach this residential area. It gives me chills thinking about it to this day. Very strange. It seemed aware of us. I'm not sure how to explain it. I honestly hope that it was fake and that it was just a guy playing a prank, but I don't think so. And also, this is my note right here. If you've ever wanted to tell how you can tell like a deer or whatever the animal is has been hunted by a Bigfoot, usually a Bigfoot will take like a limb, like a leg off of it or something. It's also kind of used as a marker. I read that somewhere, but I don't quite remember where. So if I find that source again, then I can maybe talk about it in a different video. And to keep going with like a personal thing, this reminds me, minus the golf cart, but this reminds me of when I was younger. I used to explore the woods a lot too. Most of the time I'd be alone, because a lot of my friends didn't want to explore the woods around here. But sometimes I'd have a cousin with me or one of my friends who would be brave enough to come out deep in the woods with me and stay out there until dark. But we have a golf course like close-ish to where I live, and there's a lot of woods around it, obviously. And there's also a lot of trails in those woods. And I remember being way back there with a friend one time. I don't remember how many holes there are, but it was pretty deep in there. That took us about half an hour of just like a brisk walking pace just to get to the place. It was this clearing that we'd usually go to, and there was like a brook there, and we just throw rocks at it, walk across the log bridge, and like pretend that we were in a video game or something, like searching for treasure. Uncharted was the video game we were pretending we were in. So I remember us seeing like on the trees, like high up, like, and we'd even like try to like lift each other up to like see if we could reach it or not. But it was on certain trees, all the bark was stripped off about 10 feet up in the air, or up in the tree. And I don't know. And after we started seeing that stuff and we followed it, and it just went deeper and deeper into the woods, till eventually we felt like we were being watched, like, you know, that no longer alone feeling. And there was nothing like where all the sounds stopped or anything like that. It was just a weird kind of feeling, like your body's telling you, okay, that's enough, we should go back to civilization now. But yeah, as we're walking back, and again, it's like getting on night, so it's around dusk, there's still a little bit of sunlight in the trees because it's the summertime, and we're walking back, and we can see something that just kind of moving in and out of the path, like from side to side. So we don't stick around to get a good look at it or anything. We just take off out of there. We don't run because we're not like gonna let it know that it can see us. We just briskly walk out of there and kind of whisper to each other and look back every now and then to see if it's getting closer. And it never got closer. It was just like telling us to, you know, F off, this is my territory. I don't know. Just kind of reminded me of that. But yeah. So, what'd you think of those stories? Let me know which one was your favorite one down in the comments. And down in the description, I have a PayPal and a Patreon, and I don't have an email in there right yet because I'm changing it to like one that's more consistent with the channel. As in, it'll probably say like The Leaf, YouTube, or something like that. I haven't decided yet. But that's coming soon, probably in the new year at this point. And one other thing is that I think in the new year, I may just for a little while, because I got a lot going on, just do one longer video in a week, probably on a Sunday. It'll probably be 40 minutes or above instead of 2 half-hour videos. It might just be a little less stressful for me. So let me know if y'all are okay with that down in the comments and stuff. If anybody listens to the outros, I don't know. But yeah, I might even do a poll on it on the channel. So with that, I hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you do, then like and subscribe or consider it. And thank you for pulling up a stump, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.